Today I've got two different ways to use a hot foil plate, both one as a background and two as a focal point. Hello and welcome back to another Take Two with Therese at altenew, and today I'm going to be making two beautiful cards with you using this Magic Burst hot foil plate. It's a dream and I wanted to show you how to change it up a little bit. So I've got two ways to use it today, once as a background and the other as a focal point. I'm going to start by actually creating two pieces of cardstock with the hot foil plate. Use whatever system you have. I've got the brass hot foil here and I'm using a Go pressing foil, and then I need to run it through my machine. A couple of quick tips. Don't forget to put your foil pretty side down onto your plate. I always like to leave my hot foil plate while it's heating up on the actual machine so that it gets nice and hot, and when you run it through your manual die cutting machine, if you've got that sort of version, then do it nice and slow. And my final tip is let it cool down before you remove the actual foil from the image if you can. Sometimes I find as I remove the cardstock off the image, then it comes off immediately, but if I can, I actually like to let it cool down before I remove the foil. Ta-da! I always love the big reveal. And I also want to do some coordinating sentiments. So another tip here is to actually create more than you need. I have the Sweet Sentiments set, has a hot foil plate set as well as coordinating dies. So these dies you can actually use to cut out these hot foil words, but the die set itself also comes with the words as a die cut. So if you don't have a hot foil system, you can get a similar look by cutting the word out of some gold. They've got a beautiful brushed gold series at altenew in their cardstock, and that would look amazing as well. So I'm starting my background version for the first card, and I wanted to create sort of a ombre pale background. The colors I've used here are blush, sunray and chamomile. Of course, I'm going to list all of the supplies that I've used today in the description below the video, but you can also find it at the blog, as well as a lot more details, as well as some close-up photos. So when I'm blending my backgrounds like this, one tip is not to go too heavy-handed. You can always add more ink. And I am just using Nina cardstock here today. I'm not using any specialty cardstock. I didn't use any shims in my machine. I do find that the altenew hot foil plates are nice and thick. I find if I add shims, it actually adds too much pressure. But if you want that kind of look, the more like the debossed letterpress look, go for it. So for my second card, I'm going to be creating a focal point, and I did want to color this as well. So I'm using the olive ink, and I'm not covering the whole piece of cardstock because I'm not going to need it. I am actually going to be die cutting this out with the halftone circles nesting die set. I did actually cut the center of this out because I was toying with the idea of surrounding it with a flower, but you'll find it didn't make any difference in the end. And I wanted to do some coloring with some artist markers from the Dazzling. I'm using some images from the Dazzling Dahlia stamp set, and I stamped them all out at once, and I used some Morning Frost ink. Any pale ink would work. It's not technically one that will sit well with it's not meant to be used with alcohol markers, but I've never had a problem really. I'm not touching the ink too much when I'm coloring, because what I want to do here is create a gold outline for my images. So this is my workaround if I want to use artist markers and have an embossed image. Basically, I can color my image first and then emboss after. So the lines, doesn't really matter what you use, they're going to be covered anyway. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So it does kind of look a little bit weird right now, and I'm not doing fancy coloring here. I am keeping it really simple, but by the time I add the gold embossing over top, you're really not going to notice that my coloring isn't perfect. So don't get all intense about that. And I did actually change my colour schemes on both of the cards purposefully, just so that it could give you more inspiration and show you that how it can actually change the look of a card just by changing up the colours. I am using a lot of the pale apricots and oranges at the moment. I'm just loving the look of that on a card. But then one of my favourite go-tos is always the blues and the greens. So I thought I'm just going to stamp them all out and do some colouring, enjoy my time, put the music on. And then because I left all of my stamps in the MISTI, it was easy to come back with the embossing ink. I did use my powder tool first, just FYI, and restamped over the images with the embossing ink. And then I'm using the antique gold embossing powder from Altenew. It's a beautiful embossing powder. And I don't know if you've ever used gold embossing powders before, but some of them leave a lot of residue on the cardstock. This one doesn't. It always embosses like a dream. But how amazing do these flowers and the butterfly and the bird and the leaves look after you add the heat embossing on top? It just changes that whole look. You can't see that the colouring isn't perfect. All you can see is the gold shine. And for my first card, I cut out the background portion because this is still going to be able to see the gold foil in the Magic Burst, but it's going to be like a subtle look in the background with the blending over top. And then I could just lay out my design with my flowers and my sentiment and the butterfly. And I did add dimension. If you're concerned about postage, you can certainly do this same card without the dimension. All of my elements that are popped up, I pretty much add a second layer of cardstock behind them as well, just to add a little bit of stability, because the cardstock, the Nina that I used was the 80 pound. And I don't want things to get squished in the post, so adding that second layer of cardstock just gives it more support. I'd love to know which card is your favourite today. Do you like the focal point with the blue and the green? Or do you prefer the background with the, the apricots and the pinks? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for joining me here today. If you did enjoy today's video, please click on the thumbs up button to let me know that you did. And if you haven't already, it'd be great if you could subscribe. I don't know, what are you waiting for? I'm going to be back with more content real soon. Till then, happy paper crafting. Bye.